Good morning. Today we are going to make in my Hamilton Beach home baker. It's not just a bread machine, it is a home baker. We are going to try one of the recipes. If you saw my product review, we made the basic white. Today we are going to make the light rye. Now I'm going to do a little bit of modification to this, but this is a copy of the recipe out of the manual that comes with the bread machine. And if you remember correctly, I've got it set up here on my stove because it's so big. There's just a couple things I want to tell you first. When you're making bread especially, the best way to do ingredients is to weigh them. But if you can't weigh them or don't weigh them for whatever reason, be sure to use liquid measures for your liquids, solid measures for your solids. Now, how do you tell the difference? Usually, not always, but usually a liquid measure will have a lip, see, for pouring. See the lip for pouring right here. And solid measures will be solid. So now let me get that out of the way and then we'll get back to the bread recipe. Okay, like I said, we're going to make the light rye recipe that is in the book. I've already got everything here in my bread pan ready to go, but I want to tell you the couple of modifications that I did. I added 2 tablespoons of Vidal wheat gluten. Now I buy Vidal wheat gluten in bulk, and I added 2 tablespoons to the recipe. Also, I buy my caraway seeds in bulk. I did not measure my caraway seeds. I just put however many I wanted. I also added poppy seeds. The recipe does not call for poppy seeds. I like poppy seeds in my bread. The recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar. Well, I used 2 tablespoons of my molasses and 1 tablespoon of sugar. And the reason I added the 1 tablespoon of sugar after having the molasses was because I also added some cocoa. So everything is here. Sorry about that, folks. We have a little glitch. So everything here is in my bread machine. So what do I have in my bread machine? This is for a 1.5 loaf. I have 1 cup of water, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 tablespoons, well, I put 1 tablespoon of sugar, and then I put 2 tablespoons of molasses. It calls for 1 tablespoon of butter or vegetable oil. I used vegetable oil. It calls for 2 teaspoons of caraway seeds. Of course, I used more than that because I like caraway seeds. I also added the poppy seeds, and I don't know how much. I just added a bunch. I did use 2 cups of bread flour. I used 1 cup of rye flour, and I used 1.5 teaspoons of bread machine yeast. So that's in my pan, and we shall get it in the bread machine. And oh, by the way, that is for cycle 1. So here it is in my pan, and we will now put it in the bread machine and start it up. Okay, now I'm going to plug in my bread machine. Okay, and I think that may be too bright for you to see, but I want cycle 1. And it was already on cycle 1. Okay, I want crust. I want a light crust. And there's light. See, I don't know if you can read. That may be too bright for you to read. I'm not sure. Okay, my loaf size is the 1.5. Delay timer, I don't want that. And start. So let's take a look at it. Well, you know what, y'all? It helps when you put the paddle in, and I didn't put the paddle in, so hold on. Okay, do I feel like an idiot or what? So let's plug it back in. Okay, now, see? Remember that delay cycle I was telling you about when I did the product review? That if the electricity goes out and within 5 minutes you start it back up, it will continue where it left off. So I don't know if you can see that, but it says it has 2 hours and 53 minutes. Now, I will tell you something here. I tried it, putting it on my dishwasher here, and unfortunately it did walk too much. It was just going to walk right off the dishwasher. I used the old trick of putting the wet towel underneath it, like when you're doing a mixing bowl, you do the wet towel thing. I tried that. It worked, but I wasn't going to trust it. So here, I'm just going to give you just a minute or two of the wobble. Yeah, there. See, I just can't trust it. This is an old house. I'm not going to modify my kitchen for a bread machine. I'm just going to have to live with it. Why should I modify my kitchen for one appliance? So this is how it's going to be. So we're going to, again, I'm not going to assist it. I want to see what it does. I hope leaving that paddle out didn't hurt it too much. So we will be back in 2 hours and 51 minutes. Now rock and roll here. Let me see if I can move it over just a wee bit. That made it worse. Well, let's see what we can do. There, that seemed to help. Such is life, folks. We'll be back. Okay, according to that, we've got 1 minute left. I want to remind you of my recipe that I used. I used the light rye recipe that was in the instruction book. And it's for the 1.5 pound loaf. I used 1 cup of water, 1.5 teaspoons of salt. It called for 2 tablespoons of sugar. I used 1 tablespoon of sugar and 2 tablespoons of, there, it's done. 1 tablespoon of sugar and 2 tablespoons of molasses. And then I added some cocoa powder. It called for 1 tablespoon of butter or margarine. Butter or vegetable oil. I used vegetable oil. 2 teaspoons of caraway seeds. I used the amount of caraway seeds I wanted. I also added poppy seeds. It called for 2 cups of bread flour, 1 cup of rye flour, and 1.5 teaspoons of bread machine yeast. And I also added Vidal wheat gluten. So it just beeped that it's done. So we're going to unplug it. Just a second. I'm going to use both hands to unplug it. Okay, I just unplugged it. Ooh, that looks good. It smells so good. Okay, let me take the pan out. Ow. And I got to turn the pan. Ow, 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 ow. Okay, let's get this a little. I want you to see how easy it comes out of the pan. As you can see, it's coming out really easy. Let's see if the paddle's stuck in it again this time. Whew, yep. Paddle's not in there, so it's stuck in the bread. So let me turn it over. Very good looking loaf of bread. And there's where the paddle is stuck. Let me get the paddle out of there and we'll be right back. Okay, there's the hole left by the paddle. There's what it looks like. It looks very good. I'm going to let it cool off. And then I'm going to cut into it. Ow. It's hot. Considering I had to empty that stuff out of the pan to put the paddle back in, I think it looks pretty good. Yep, that looks good. So we'll be back in just a few minutes and we'll do a taste test. Okay, so here we go, folks. I added me some curls of butter. There we go. There it is. You can see I'm getting ready to make breakfast here. I want to make this Rudy's Farm sausage. As soon as I can, this cools off completely so I can put it away. But there it is, and let me do a taste test. Yes, it passes the taste test. It is delicious. Good. And there is nothing like real butter on real bread. So, there you go. Thanks for watching.